What is Class Bravo airspace? So Class Bravo airspace or Class B airspace is airspace that is going to be around very busy airports, major metropolitan areas, Chicago, Miami, New York, LA, Phoenix, Seattle, these larger metropolitan areas where there's going to be a lot of air traffic. Specifically, the reason for the air traffic is because there's a lot of airliners coming in and out. Okay. So Class B airspace is shaped just like an upside down wedding cake. So right down here is on the surface. This is where we would have the airport. And then that Class Bravo airspace is going to extend straight up for a certain distance, and that's going to be designated on the charts, which I'll show you here in a second. And then from there, you're going to go up to, in this example, looks like maybe about 1,500 feet AGL. It's going to be a little bit different, just depending on the geographic area that you're looking at here. So the Class Bravo airspace extends all the way up to, however many feet above the ground level. And then it extends out that radius. So this radius right here is what extends out. That's what gives it this sort of second layer of the wedding cake. So this radius extends out. So if you're up flying around up here at, 5,000 feet AGL or even 5,000 feet MSL, we don't know because this is just an example here. But you could be flying around here, and if you are at a certain altitude, you might be in Class Bravo airspace. But if you're down here below the shelf, you might not be in Class Bravo airspace. Okay. So again, that radius just extends out. And then the further up you get in altitude, this radius extends out even further. So if you look at the VFR sectional charts, it shows you exactly what those shelves look like, or those layers of the wedding cake will tell you exactly what they look like. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the charts that we can use to identify Class Bravo airspace and how to read it on those charts. SkyVector is a great resource that you can use to look at VFR sectional charts for free online. They have the current ones on there. You can just go to skyvector.com to bring these up. You're obviously not going to use these while you're out flying, but you can certainly get on here and take a look at any type of airspace you want to in the country. So this is Chicago O'Hare Airport. It is a Class Bravo airport, and I brought this one up because it's probably one of the more simpler ones with regards to the upside down wedding cake. As I said, it's not always possible to be a full, complete upside down wedding cake, just because there's sometimes other things that get in the way. Like, for example, right here, you can see this cutout right here because there is an airport right there. But this right here, Chicago O'Hare Airport, and then this is that initial inside circle of the Class Bravo airspace. So as you can see right here, it says SFC and then a line, and then it says 100. So that means that the Class Bravo airspace starts at the surface of the ground up to 10,000 feet MSL. Now, when we are looking at aeronautical charts, any altitudes that are listed on the chart are going to be in MSL or mean sea level, simply because pilots are using these charts in the aircraft as they're flying. And when they are looking at the altimeter in their aircraft, the altimeter reads in MSL. So the way you can remember it is if you are looking at a document that a pilot may be using as he or she are flying, that is going to be in MSL. This is a document that a pilot may use while he or she is flying. Okay. So this inner ring right here starts at the surface of the ground and extends up to 10,000 feet. Then as this radius gets out a little further, it starts at 1,900 feet. You can see right here, it's got the 19, which means 1,900. And then a line means the top of it is 10,000 feet. So you could be flying around right here under 1,900 feet and not be in Class Bravo airspace. Okay. Then as we extend out even further, we get the next ring here starts at 3,000 feet and extends up to 10,000 feet. Okay. So that next ring gets a little bit higher, but it also still extends up to 10,000 feet. Okay. This next ring, 3,600 feet. Is the bottom of that shelf, the bottom of that layer, and extends up to 10,000 feet. And then out here, it's 4,000 feet, extends up to 10,000 feet. Okay. So you could be flying around, Lake Michigan, this area here. And if you're under 4,000 feet, or right here, if you're under 3,600 feet, which you should be as a remote pilot, you are flying, no higher than 400 feet AGL. But you may get questions on the exam of knowing exactly what type of airspace you're in. It might give you a line of latitude and longitude and say, what type of airspace is this right here at this particular altitude? They're going to test your knowledge to see if you know how to read these charts. Okay. You're going to have some cutouts. You're going to have things like this. There's an airport right here. So that's why there's a cutout right there. These other things, these other circles here are different pieces of information for you that you can get from SkyVector. So for example, this is what is called a DROTM. This is a NOTAM that is relevant to drones. So it gives you the information about it. It says it's the UAS operating area, and it's effective from surface to 1,000 feet AGL in 3 days. So it's not anything that's happening right now. It's something that's happening in a couple of days. All right. This one right here is what's called a TFR, temporary flight restriction. Looks like there is a baseball game on September 9th at, let's see what time, 19:05 Zulu to 12:35 Zulu, surface to 3,000 feet AGL. It's valid for 3 hours. So it looks like Giants at Cubs are playing. Okay, so the game begins at 20:05 Zulu, but the TFR starts at 19:05 Zulu. So it's an hour before the game even starts. So right here, that there's a TFR, temporary flight restriction. No flights are allowed over the stadium from surface to 3,000 feet AGL. Okay, so this is the Chicago airspace on the charts. Couple different things to think about when you're looking at Class Bravo airspace. Class Bravo airspace is identified using these solid lines, these solid blue lines. You'll see here we've got one that is a dotted blue line. That's going to be your Class Delta airspace. We'll talk about that when we get to Class Delta. And then you've got magenta, which signifies a different type of airspace. Signifies either your Class G or Class E. Okay, so we've got the colors blue and magenta, which are used in depicting airspace on the charts. Okay, but what you need to know is how to identify: is a dotted line, is it a solid line, is it a line that's sort of shaded? We'll talk through all of those. The other thing you need to know about Class Bravo airspace is that there is something called a Mode C veil. So this solid magenta line right here indicates a Mode C veil around the Chicago airport that extends for 30 nautical miles. Okay, so if you are flying within this Mode C veil, an aircraft needs a Mode C transponder and an ADS-B out on their aircraft. Now remember, we talked about the different types of technology that is prohibited on your drone. You will not have a Mode C transponder or an ADS-B out on your drone. Okay, so just remember, those are pieces of technology that are used on manned aircraft. Okay, and so when you are looking through some of the busy airspace around there, any type of Class B airspace, maybe try to find one that's closest to you, that you understand the geography a little bit, because you can see that they put some helpful information on here. They've got different types of areas that you might be able to identify, like something like a tower or a building, railroad tracks, that kind of stuff. You can go through there. So if you're more familiar with a different area, at first what I would say is go and look at that particular area. So if I scroll out here, you can see the entire country. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here to Phoenix, because Phoenix airspace is a little bit more confusing. There's a lot going on in the airspace here. We've got a military aircraft here, but you can see that it's Class B airspace, but it's not necessarily this perfectly upside down wedding cake. Okay, so you may be flying along the canal right here, And you have to look at this and say, okay, where is the Class Bravo airspace here? The Class Bravo airspace, what is it going to be if I'm flying at that particular spot right here? Because there's a line right here. You can move, maybe half a mile or cross a street, and you're in a different type of airspace. All right. So what you want to do is make sure you know how to identify what Class Bravo airspace looks like on a chart, but then also be able to identify what are those different shelves. Look at these numbers here to help you identify where's the bottom of that shelf and the top of that shelf. Okay. Then you want to remember that there is a Mode C veil around Class Bravo airspace where you do need, on manned aircraft, you need Mode C transponder and ADS-B out. That may or may not be a question on your exam simply because it's not a requirement for drones, but that question may come up as what does this line mean? So you'll want to know that. So that is Class Bravo airspace in the National Airspace System.